Hey, happy spring equinox, everyone who's in the Northern Hemisphere. It is an equinox today, somewhere, for somebody. It's spring here. Oh, God, thank God. We made it through the winter. Not my happy season at all, even though I'm a winter baby. It sucks every year. Sucks. I just complain, bitch, and moan all winter long until we get to spring. Then I feel like I can live again. Anyway, thought I would pop on for a little quickie. It's never a quickie. What was that? It reminds me of that vampire movie, that Love at First Bite or something like that, where he says, with you, never a quickie, always a longie. So, you know, you know how it go. Hopefully. No, this is going to be quick. If it's an hour, it's quicker than most of my shows. Yeah, I just wanted to look at the spring equinox, see exactly where we're at, check in, look at the upcoming eclipses and maybe some asteroids, stars, and whatnot. There's so much weirdness that goes on, during eclipses. It's like all bets are off, the gloves are off. Well, the Aries Ingress feels like the gloves are off, and it's all very interesting. I know a lot of people are not interested in what's going on with the royals, but it really seems like that institution is eating itself. And I mean, it is definitely entertaining to watch because it lets us know that a certain level of the construct of reality, or quote reality, that we live in is crumbling. It's dissolving. Like, people don't even, they can't even pass the bullshit off anymore. And now, it's like, it's all out war. It's one media outlet against another. And it just seems like, you know, we've been able to see how the war, there is no consensus among what we believe to be factions, of elite type people and, you know, people that we believe run the world, let's say, deeply entrenched in the power structure. There's war that goes on among them too, and it's become very public, and people are connecting the dots and seeing how the media is used, uh, and also seeing how the media conglomeration functions in shaping our reality. So, wanted to just look really quick at the chart. Let's see what is going on. What the hell is going on in the heavens? What is up your anus? So this is basically the chart for the ingress of the sun into Aries. Here you can see it. It's in the fourth house, cusp of the fifth, and it's the internal stuff that's going on. We're going to look at the asteroids in just a minute. The sun just got out of its foggy conjunction with Neptune, where, you know, we don't know whether we're coming or going or what's real or just stumbling through, trying to make a decision, feeling very foggy and just lacking clarity. A lot of tiredness. Venus coming up on Saturn feels very heavy. Financial stuff, relationship stuff. But Pisces stuff is all very murky. And now, if you remember back in the beginning of March, if you went back a couple of weeks ago, when Mercury came out of the same fog, let's rewind and I shall show you what that looked like. You know, Mercury just went through this in the beginning of March, and it was an opportunity to see so much sleight of hand that normally goes on. But for those who could see past the deception, and that was that the photoshopped, not even photoshopped conglomeration of a picture that, yeah, I mean, Photogate, Kategate, whatever. So you can see the progression here. You know, Pisces has to do with photography. Neptune has to do with illusion. And it was just obvious that it should have been obvious across the board. I'm using this whole thing with the royals to illustrate a point that when we take things at face value for what they are on the surface and not see what's going on underneath, we can be deceived. So it's our duty to look past and look through this fog, and you don't do it with your physical eyes. This is all third eye territory here. So once we got past this, it was March 9th and 10th, around the new moon, when Mercury went into Aries. And that was around the time when people were screaming, you know, this doesn't cut it. We don't believe it. This is fake. Fake Kate. So on a personal level, to some degree, people are dealing with coming out of the fog, looking for a new direction in Aries, finding the voice. Mercury in Aries really started pitching a fit and sounding off. It's like the filter was off, the muzzle came off. We're not going to take it anymore. And that was the new moon. So, really kicking off a whole lunar cycle of Mercury in Aries. And Mercury's not going to leave Aries, Mercury is going to go retrograde. So, everything that we're seeing around this time, we're just going to keep peeling off the layers until we really, until it's really like completely bare and stripped naked before us. And the emperor has no clothes. The emperor has no clothes. So we kind of reached a peak around the last couple of days, so 18, 19, with Mercury conjunct the North Node. And this is an important point here because then Mercury enters its shadow. Mercury is going to go retrograde. Starts its retrograde somewhere around 26, 27. I think it's 27 degrees of Aries. So right around here. And it will come back and return to this point right around 15 Aries, where it stations to go direct, I believe. Could be off about a degree, but we'll go over that. So we're really in for an interesting ride. I mean, think about how it was, about, I don't know, 10 days ago, a week to 10 days ago when Mercury entered Aries. Now the sun is in Aries. Mercury was the mind, the communication, and Aries is, you know, no filter. Just gonna say what I want to say. And here I am. And this is what I have to say. Now the sun goes into Aries, we get a lot more illumination and leaders are in the spotlight and things get super fiery. So the sun will sextile Pluto. There's a whole lot going on in regard to the individual, technology, power and control, fear, but this is really seems rather fearless because I think that we're starting to realize that as a collective, we have a lot more power than we think that we do. We may be individuals, but we are finding our voice and finding our identity and standing up for ourselves and confronting the issues of disparity of power. But really, technology is a great weapon in the hands of the individual when they come together. Aren't we seeing that? So, very interesting alignments. We have Mercury now conjunct Chiron. So there's definitely a need to speak out about things that need to heal, things around a masculine nature, of anger and aggression, of well, where it's concerned with a male in particular, centering around a particular male who, let's say, if I'm not going to make it specific, but um, the individual's, let's say, misuse of power and even in terms of violence, that energy is hanging on by a thread over here and is about to slip into Pisces. So I wouldn't be surprised if a prominent male figure just sort of goes missing. um, a lot of missing person stuff happening with this Pisces stuff, with Mercury conjunct Neptune and then the sun conjunct Neptune. A lot of themes around missing persons, right? Where is Kate? And there's a couple of other cases. I haven't been following too closely, but I did see a few things, missing people. There were people that went missing that got found. I think, when Mercury went into Aries. Anyway, um, so we're still dealing with the Pisces stuff. Venus here has to go through Saturn, and then Venus will go through Neptune. So this is not an easy time for female energy. It could be very difficult for very sensitive, artistic type people, Pisces in particular, although, Venus can add a very positive, supportive, nurturing, but um, overall, it feels very lost to a degree. I'm not going to say that Venus is all that happy in Aries, but at least, she may be able to fight for herself. It's just a very interesting section of the sky here, Aries, because we do have part of the zodiac sign of Aries that is, in Vedic astrology, it's Pisces, it's part of the constellation of Pisces, but we also have Andromeda, which is the chained woman. And I'm pretty sure that somewhere around mid Aries is one of the stars in the constellation of Andromeda. So, I mean, this deals with prisoners, people in prison. It's the woman in chains. We should look at that. We will look at that. We'll look at the stars. Just let me look at the planets first. So Mercury in Aries conjunct Chiron, there's a challenge here to find your voice, to be able to speak for yourself and to act on your own behalf and being independent. And it's just the suppression of the youthful energy of Aries being the baby of the zodiac, but a lot going on here. What else can we look at? The moon is in Leo today. The moon entered Leo, opposed Pluto yesterday. So definitely a face off with someone who is trying to assert their identity, or someone wanting to break free and break out of captivity here in the Pisces 12th house energy. More likely able to come out and be free when the sun enters into Aries, totally new energy. It does feel lighter. It does feel freer from my perspective. The sun in Neptune has been sitting on my Chiron and then my ascendant. So I'll let you know. I feel it. I definitely feel it. Oh, Lord. Yeah. So the moon in Leo answers to the sun, the individual, and in Leo wants to be free to create, wants to be free. It's going to square, well, it's squaring Jupiter right now. And we'll talk about some asteroids in that respect. Jupiter is conjunct Albion. It's moving away from Albion, but all of this kerfuffle in the UK, Albion is the ancient name for Great Britain. So there is a lot going on with the astrology of that. And let's see. So Jupiter has been conjunct Albion, um, asteroid Amfortas is somewhere around in the mix too. Several weeks ago, I looked at this and Amfortas was conjunct Albion. And that has to do with the Grail myth and the Fisher King. And bottom line, it's a story of the masculine wound. So the feminine has her wound, the masculine has his wound, and it's a generative wound, which in different versions of the story, it is either a wound in the groin or the thigh, but it indicates, um, the sexual organs and reproduction and the ability to produce an heir to the throne, which is very interesting. When we look at the intricacies of all of the things that we're learning about, you know, if, if you were not a fan of the monarchy and didn't know anything about the royals and all of the gossip that goes on, if you paid attention over the last 3 months, which like I did, but I have been interested, but only because I see it in the astrology and then it catches my eye. Um, there's such an ancient story being played out here, and when you look at, oh gosh, the marriages and the children and the secret bastard children and whose kid is actually whose and who's your daddy and all of that stuff. It is very interesting looking at it from that perspective because that is the root of the crazy that is the House of Windsor. So, very interesting. Uh, we'll look at the asteroids in a second. So, that's where we're at for the actual day, the 20th today of the solar ingress and a trine to the moon. It's very uplifting, positive. We need some fire energy. You know, the mind is here in Aries with Chiron, but it's dealing with, the perseverance of working the North Node, of asserting ourselves and um, coming online as an individual and fighting for our rights and standing up and integrating the selfhood. And Chiron is here, so it hasn't been easy. We have had to look at the wounding of the individual and the masculine energy. So we have more focus here, we have more drive and more light with the sun now in Aries. But our love, nature, and our artistic side and our our ability to attract is in Pisces, and it's going through a challenge with Saturn. It's coming to terms with our karmic patterns and cycles and what we've learned and, you know, taking responsibility in terms of, taking what we've learned and applying it. It can have people feeling sort of heavy and draggy, but there is the ability to create something solid out of ether, maybe even plasma. So we can play around with that concept. I think that once Venus gets past the conjunction to Saturn and makes the sextile to Jupiter, that's where we can actually see the fruit of that creative manifestation. I mean, this feels like a womb and a cocooning, but on a very metaphysical level where the meeting of Saturn and Venus is like a copulation that once Venus starts to aspect Jupiter, this will grow. This is planting the seed in the conscious, subconscious dream state, uh, creative visualization, and that kind of on a very, very subtle level here, where Saturn can start to crystallize something and perhaps in the area of money and finance and love, and we can look at it that way, but it is a moment where if we focus over the next couple of days, we can see the fruit of something in the physical, because Jupiter is expanding whatever we are planting here in the spirit realm to come through in the physical in Taurus. So be careful be aware of your focus. Saturn can really bring you down to a very dense level, and that's where we can get a little depressed, but really going inward and working with that energy, I think is going to benefit us, and we should see some sort of bounty here, I think. So what else do we have going on? Yeah, tomorrow Mercury will be conjunct Chiron, exactly. And yesterday, the moon was in Cancer, squaring Mercury and squaring Chiron. So that was, very sensitive, difficult news potentially, but it feels like we can have a new start today. And the energy of Mars, though, even though we have the sun in Aries, Mercury in Aries, the ruler of Aries is about to go into Pisces. And I always say that's like driving a motorcycle on the beach and then driving it into the water. It's like blub, 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 blub. So the energy and the will force and the assertiveness, even the anger, anger can be sublimated and suppressed at this time when Mars goes into Pisces, which will be on the 23rd, coming up to the lunar eclipse. And eclipses tend to be very taxing on the energy body, and we can feel very tired. Full moons in general, but this one, because we are looking at a south node eclipse, lunar eclipse. So it is releasing, 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 let it go. Let it go. And when Mars goes into Pisces, that can definitely feel like an energy drop. we're going to have the moon opposite Mars. It just feels like we're expending a lot of nervous energy. It feels frenetic. Mars in Aquarius is it's just frazzling the nervous system. There's just so much amplitude. I know we've been getting some solar flares. They don't seem to have been major, but we could be looking at a major one, quite possibly. Uh, it's important to note with eclipses that they really do affect our, uh, the geophysical, uh, what do you call it? I don't even know the technical names for these things, but um, geomagnetics, I guess, we are probably going to be prone to solar storms, um, CMEs, and volcano and earthquake events tend to pick up around the eclipses. So it's a lot of stress on the earth, the magnetosphere. So that in turn puts stress on our bodies, which our bodies are electrical. Um, so I think it's important to make sure that we're getting plenty of rest. Sometimes it's hard, but water, we can become dehydrated during these times. Uh, so that is important. Taking your electrolytes, taking any kind of herbs or supplements that can help um, to even out your adrenals and your nervous system. Look up adaptogens, certain things like Shizandra, I think, and astrologus. There was something I was taking, but I ran out of it and it really helped. But even calcium, magnesium, potassium, electrolytes, whatever um, trace elements are very helpful because that will help balance out the stress on the nervous system. So look into that. Cell salts, um, those little white pills. Look up the cell salts. There's one that contains all of them. I have those. God, I should dig them out. They're pretty fantastic. So there's a lot of things that we can do, but new moons and full moons in general, I always say, give yourself a break, take your foot off the gas, just kind of coast. It's not a time to make big changes. It's more of a time to just sort of sit back and look and see what's happening, how they're playing out, how they're affecting you. And then, let the eclipses inform you of what is coming up. So wherever you start to see a lot of activity, a lot of cracks in the foundation, it will let you know the area that it's coming up. But of course, if you know your chart, then you know where the eclipses are happening and you'll know in what area of life it'll play out. For instance, if the eclipses are happening across the ascendant, descendant, then you know it's going to be about yourself and another person. The rising and the rising sign and the descendant are about the one-on-one relationships, how we relate to other people. So it could be very impactful for ourselves and the people that we are in uh, close dynamic with. It can be it's just our relational dynamic in general, and those things will change. So, for instance, if you had either Aries or Libra rising, then the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse is going to be in one or of the two houses. So there's a culmination with the lunar eclipse in Libra. Being in Libra, we are going to see where the imbalances are. We're going to see, are our relationships reciprocal? Are we going along to get along? Are we giving more to a dynamic to keep it going? And what happens if we withdraw our attention or our energy or refuse to participate? Does the whole thing fall apart? I mean, you'll really know. You'll really understand a dynamic when you stop giving to it. And you will see the true face of the other as they react to your absence. So that's a very interesting experiment. You really want to know what someone's made of. Stop talking to them. See what they do. Do they fight for it? Do they just walk away like it's nothing and, you know, don't need you, I guess, because they can't feed off of you anymore. Or, you know, you're of no use to them because you're not giving to the relationship, or do they freak out and attack you, gaslight you, that kind of thing? You'll see the narcissist pop up. Or do they come to you and say, "Are you okay? What can I do for you? Are you going through a tough time?" That'll tell you who people are in your life. Anyway, so the Aries eclipse is a new beginning. The Libra eclipse in on the full moon is a culmination, it's an ending. So that's one way to look at it. It's funny, we get an ending and then we get the new beginning 2 weeks later. The Aries, independent, fiery, fuck it energy. I love it. It's my first house. I might progressed North Node, so, you know. Oh, yes. So let's see. Am I done sharing this screen, or do we want to talk about? Let's talk about the 23rd. We're going to have the moon in Virgo, conjuncting Juno, the wife, in retrograde. She's missing. Issues with her health? Who knows? The health of the relationship is someone's health suffering because they are in a codependent dynamic. The moon is opposite to Saturn and Venus. Definitely looking at the level of commitment, the responsibility, the obligation, and also healthy boundaries in relationship. We're also talking about possible situations where someone is super critical and putting all the blame. This is scapegoating, blame shifting, shaming, blaming, that kind of hypocritical energy where, everything is your fault. They don't take any responsibility. Yeah. Okay. So issues of health coming up, fatigue, tiring situations. This is a spiritual weariness. like a soul tiredness, tired, ready to let go. And then the eclipse is on the 25th. 5 degrees of Libra. Round about 3 a.m. in the morning Eastern. Yep, 3 a.m. Eastern, midnight on the West Coast. As far as the chart goes that I am sharing right now, the moon is up here in the 8th, on the cusp of the 9th, going into the 8th. The sun is in the 2nd, coming out of the 3rd. I mean, that to me says that there is just before the moment of the exact full moon, there's a moment of information versus truth, lower mind versus higher mind. So some kind of news coming in and a peak, let's say, of a dynamic, of a relationship, of the balance between the self in Aries and the other, relationships across the board, where you want to be able to manage between your needs and another person's needs, yourself, another person, and then the third thing that is created, the dynamic. It is very interesting. So if I'm looking at this chart, the moon is ruling the descendant and the sun is ruling the 8th house. So the rising is Capricorn. So that is Saturn. So we are talking about perhaps financial dynamic, responsibility, financial responsibility, the needing to reduce spending, rein things in, the cooling off, some kind of difficulty in finances, but Capricorn rising is there to make the adjustment, and quite possible because Venus has been approaching Saturn, and it will, before the eclipse, it will make the conjunction to Saturn. So this feels like a little instability as far as finances go. And it's an indicator of a reversal, like where things have been high, they're going to start to cool down. Probably going to get some interesting economic news. So how does that affect the relationship dynamics? Where do we have one party being more mature, and how does it also reflect a parental dynamic, maybe where one person is carrying most of the load and the other person needs to grow up and, start shouldering some of the burden. So some of that could be going on. Very interesting. But it does put, the sun and the moon being involved. We have to look at Cancer and Leo because those are the rulers of Cancer and Leo, and they are in the 7th and 8th house. So on the one side, Capricorn, this is government, right? And the other side would be, what is government doing for the individual? Or how is government affecting the individual, let's say? So we can see that for this eclipse cycle, um, the eclipse is, affecting relationship dynamics here. And the eighth house, shared money, shared finances. This is taxes, benefits, money that people receive that they don't work for. And that includes public assistance. So, homes, families, children. What else can we see from this? The rulers of the eclipse are both in Pisces, right? Because Aries is Mars, Libra is Venus. So, and these are all in the second house of money, finance, physical resources, even the body. This does have to do, second house does somewhat represent the body. So we have Venus also ruling the fourth house. That's home, family, stability, in Taurus, resources. So looking at, increasing with Venus sextile to Jupiter, increasing how to get money in the hands of people, not necessarily by government. The truly self-governed person, Saturn in the second house, is going to get really creative about how to bring more money in, how to increase the value of what you have in terms of resources, which can be crypto. Jupiter going towards Uranus here is probably pretty incredible for the crypto people. So, what else can we say? Mars is definitely lagging behind. Mars takes twice as long. It only goes about 2 degrees a day, whereas Venus goes about a degree per day. And Mars is super bogged down and tired and really not happy. Mars has a saggy diaper. So that'll be a challenge. And Mars will probably get pretty frustrated by the time he reaches Saturn. If you thought Venus didn't was kind of, soggy and depressive with Saturn, Mars, Saturn, very frustrated, probably a lot of depression for some people because, Mars, movement, life force, happy in Aries, it's trying to swim through the water and then it comes up against Saturn, which is just a freaking wet blanket under the sea, if that's even possible, or a brick wall. But there's a lot of tenacity there with Mars Saturn conjunctions. So you just have to stick with it and learn to swim around things. Anyway, definitely feels like things are cooling off with the markets. So let's look at some asteroids. Let's look at asteroids. Okay, stop screen share. Go back to I'm going to get my asteroid list up. I'm going to get my asteroids in gear here. Well, let me tell you, Mercury, when it entered Aries and squared chaos in Cancer and Estrella in Cancer, Photographica, all of those in Cancer. Oh, it did not fail to disappoint. So that's why I'm thinking now that the sun is doing that, this is a whole nother level of war. So if we can use the photocate gate as a marker when Mercury went into Aries, all that stuff blew up and was completely debunked. Now we get the farmer's market video and boom, the gloves are off today. Today. So when Mars goes into Pisces, I really think that that's when the war gets really submersive. That's when it's subversive and submersive. It's way deep under the water, under the radar, and Pisces Virgo axis. I think they're going to find her medical records and put them out, leak them out, some kind of crap regarding her health and well-being. There's another level of exposure happening. You can quote me on that. Right, let me share the screen. Let me shut up now and share the screen. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. The sun in Aries. Hera is the wife. Juno is the wife also. Juno is in Virgo, retrograde, and was opposed to Saturn last week, where it really got serious. And Where's Kate reached Pierce Morgan's lips. So that's like when the normies are talking about it and not just the weirdos on Twitter and YouTube, that's when you know. And they still haven't produced proof of life. So I'm just saying, you wanted to know where all the crazy is coming from. Crazy is happening in someone's life somewhere, you know, every day someone is having their own personal apocalypse. So, so it depends, are these things, are these degrees active in your chart? Then they would apply to you. If they aren't, then it doesn't. Maybe you're seeing it, observing it in someone else. But we do have Sun, Hera at 0 and 1 degree of Aries. So again, the Sun and Hera. The Sun is the masculine. It is the identity. It's the leader. It's the, new birth. And Hera, so there is a focus on a wife, a new wife. We'll see. Interesting. What else do we have going on? So the sun is going to, over the next few days, conjunct Hera, Manway. That's an asteroid named after, it's a Tolkien thing. So if you're into that, Okairo, a centaur, I believe. You can look these up if they interest you. I won't go into them. Magdalena, Mary Magdalene, Madeline Soto, it could be a name. It could be anything having to do with, the Grail myths, the story of the bloodline, all of that stuff. So apply it as you want. It's also associated with, women and divine feminine mysteries, that kind of thing. Cilicia. So not too long, give it like 9 days, and the sun will be conjunct Cilicia. Cilicia is salacious. I see a lot of salacious details coming up when there's aspects to Salacia. When Mercury was conjunct Salacia, all of the dirtiest dirt, dirtiest of the dirt was coming up with the gossip. So you'll see it with the celebrities, you'll see it with, political figures, because remember, anything that comes to the attention of a wide, group of people, the public, those people are living out certain archetypes, and they do it in public. So we get to see these things play out like a Shakespearean drama, right? And so it's really personal for us if we have a planet being transited by one of these asteroids. So keep that in mind. Salacia. It also can mean salty, it Salacia is the goddess of the sea. So it can have those connections also. So then we have the another one. I skip over things. Just bear with me. If you want to look them up, you can. Things that don't interest me don't exist. All right, the North Node, the Mean Node, asteroid Amor at 17, Mercury. So a lot of talk of love and healing around love and the idea of chivalrous love, perhaps. Love in terms of men, masculine, because it is Aries. So, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. That's what Kate said. Sorry. I just couldn't resist. All right, so Mercury will go on to conjunct Sekhmet. Eris and Karma are at 24 and 25 degrees of Aries. So around the solar eclipse, we'll see where Sekhmet won't be there because Sekhmet, here's the speed, moves pretty fast. But the eclipse being at 20 degrees of Aries, it's going to conjunct Chiron by that time. Chiron's very close. The North Node is, I don't know, 5 degrees away ish. But right after that, the moon is going to be waxing onto Eris, which is goddess of discord, and Karma, and Phaethon, Heracles, and Terpsichore. Terpsichore might be out of Aries by then. So might Heracles, but because we're talking 2 weeks from now, we'll see where Phaethon is. It might still be there. Eris will be there. Eris has been here in this position, but everything that's happening right now is karmic. It's karmic. So things are fated. We should see where the fates are, the 3 fates. But anyway, let's move on. Pandora, Hephaestus, Lachesis is a fate, Asclepius, so there is healing involved. Hephaestus is the rejected, deformed, monstrous, child, but he does end up being blacksmith to the gods and forging the weapons of the gods. So that's a masculine healing archetype. And we don't really have any aspects coming up other than maybe sextiles from Venus. This is what I was talking about before. Albion at 13, Panacea which is a cure. Sometimes we look at panacea as being like a sugar pill, like a placebo, but panacea really does mean cure. So interesting. Jupiter, Jupiter is justice and the legal system, and it is also print media and, you know, television news media and journalism. So this is where I'm really seeing the influence with Jupiter and Albion. And panacea is a cure. Like, how are we going to cure this sickness here? This sickness that is the war, the war in the tabloids, But right behind it, I mean, we have Tantalus, Dionysus, Clotho, which is another fate asteroid, the weaving of the cloth of time, spinning, fate, Eros, there's the erotic love principle, Siwa. I just noticed there's a celebrity, Jojo Siwa. I don't follow her, but you could use this asteroid for her. Does she have anything to do with the UK? She might be integral to the story or reflecting archetypally the how the Eros principle is playing out in the media. Yeah, I think she maybe got a little flack for being a little saucy. That could be. Anyway, Uranus, Lempo. Lempo is a feminine energy, and this, I think it comes from Scandinavian lore. Lempo is the fire woman. So you can add that to your goddess asteroid stuff. So, I mean, not really too much else going on other than, the Mercury Neptune over the last maybe since 2 weeks ago, and then the Sun Neptune over the last week has been dealing with a square to Arachne. Think of that as weaving spiders, uh, and scheming, Ascalaphus is my snitch, whistleblower, people who are talking about things that somebody would rather them not talk about, whistleblower stuff, right? That guy supposedly, allegedly didn't kill himself, right? Just like, Jeffrey, and Vesta is, you know, what we are passionate about. It is home and hearth, keeping the fire lit. And Asbolus is the seer. Asbolus sees what's coming, what's ahead. So very, very interesting to see the rumors fly because that's what people do when you aren't being clear about something. They speculate and everybody projects their own ideas onto the situation, but somewhere the truth is in the mix, and it's the seers who are ahead of the curve, who saw it all coming. And what comes after? Chaos, right? Where we have all of this, this scheming and weaving, and then people talking about things we'd rather they not talk about, trying to obscure the facts and getting people invested in the drama, or really looking at who is when someone makes a statement or an outlet makes a statement, what is it that they are invested in? How are they being influenced? So, what do they have to gain? And who's behind them? Who's putting out that statement? So, looking at all of that has been quite interesting. So, then when Mercury went into Aries and squared chaos, boom. Now the sun is in Aries, squaring to chaos. I think it'll probably get deeper, the bullshit that the palace finds themselves in, or somebody is finding themselves in, because I don't have it on this list here, but there's an asteroid Lie, and Lie is somewhere around here. Think it's retrograde too. So it's lies that are causing chaos, right? Or there's a lie about chaos, right? So if you see something that is stirring up chaos or predicting chaos, it could be a lie. So don't believe everything that's being floated out there. Some things are lies to divert your attention, cause chaos, because Estrella is here also. Estrella is trying to bring justice and balance to the situation. And there are legal ramifications here. The sun will square Estrella. Mercury squared Estrella. There could be legal, charges coming out for certain people and consequences. So look for those things. Binor is the strong man. That's like bodyguard, sort of doorman material, someone who's a gatekeeper, someone who is there to stop certain things from going forward. And what is it? Photographica. The sun is going to square all of this. The Mercury did it, and that's when we got those weirdo photographs, right? But, you know, just know that this energy is out there, and I'm just telling you how it's playing out in the public with the collective. So there are, this is Cancer too. So family energy, the past, family, Cancer, and protecting a family, right? You know, during the Mercury, now that I'm thinking about it, during Mercury square Estrella, that was when I found out what a super injunction is. So that's like a gag order, that's like an NDA sort of. But in the UK, a super injunction means that no one can talk about a certain thing. So I'm sure that there is a super injunction on whatever's going on, whatever the truth is. There's probably an investigation, and could be a crime has been committed, and we're not hearing about it because there's a super injunction. That's why you haven't heard nothing from Kate or about Kate, because there's a very heavy duty, very serious legal strong man, Binor, who is holding back photographic evidence, but it may come out with the sun when the sun squares Estrella. We'll see what happens, but it will be very soon. I'm thinking that they were supposed to make their announcement today or by today. The BBC said, stay tuned for a major announcement between Monday and Wednesday Today's Wednesday. Mercury, Chiron. I'm thinking about Mercury for announcements. Let's see. Mercury is squaring Sphinx, Eclipse. Eclipse is like a parter, kind of like what happens with a retrograde, where you have the first pass, the second pass, and then a planet goes forward, it's the third pass. So if I were to guess, the announcement would be finally they're going to tell us she's gravely ill, unconscious, intubated, and that's why they kept pushing off the date because they thought she'd be out of the coma or out of the woods or whatever. And they're just going to keep dragging it out until they decide that they want to announce that, you know, we're very sorry she's passed. That's just my opinion. But with the eclipses, who knows? Mercury, I think Mercury will be at the degree of the solar eclipse when we have the lunar eclipse. So that means that Mercury would be probably around 20 degrees. I'm just going to check because then that would square Eclipse, which means they're going to drag it out. So if we're having the eclipse on the 25th, well, Mercury will be past that. But Mercury is going to retrograde. I expect they're going to drag it out. Anyway, all right. So let's see. What did I want to check? Now, somewhere around here, Prince William has his son is somewhere, I think. Wait a minute. No, he's in the beginning of Cancer because he was supposedly born on the equinox. Oh, chaos, Estrella, Binor, Photographica. I think his son is somewhere around here. I could be wrong. But anyway, I still haven't gotten around to doing a celebrity video. But don't worry, I will. Yesterday the moon would have been conjunct Vulcanus and Solaris and Diana. Diana at 4 degrees of Leo. The sun is going to make a trine to Diana, and so will the eclipse will be sextile to Diana. So my guess is the scandal just keeps going and people really start to talk about Diana with this lunar eclipse. So today the moon is conjunct Atlantis. Tomorrow, Aura, Hecate. That's the crossroads. Also, we might see some indication of occult workings and the hidden hand, perhaps. What was I looking for? Oh, DNA is going to be about 2 or 3 degrees away from the lunar eclipse. It's retrograde right now. That means that, I don't know if you guys saw this story about there was a woman who worked for like a forensics lab, and she was just charged with not following something happened with her that she was not following procedure, and they just caught it. And I think she's being charged with something, or she was let go or stepped out. I don't remember. But that's going to affect, they said, like 250 cases, legal cases, because the DNA data might be faulty. So I would expect something to come up around DNA. I've also seen it already come up in the discourse, the public discourse about twins. Now, if you have heard any of my other podcasts, oh, it's not on here. Crap. This particular version of the website only lists a certain amount of asteroids that you can add, but asteroid Didymus has entered Capricorn. Didymus is our twin, the twin asteroid, the existing in two states, two faces. I've seen a lot of talk about Janus, about twins, about even talking about anyway, I don't want to go into I don't want to go any more into the tabloid stuff, but um one thing that I thought about with asteroid DNA squaring asteroid Didymus, is it possible that it might come up in some way, shape, or form that someone is proved to have a twin or be a twin? And how are twins used as body doubles? Because that's another thing that came up with these aspects. It's just crazy. We got people talking about clones and body doubles, and that's all Didymus territory. Now the sun is squaring Didymus the next couple of days. DNA is involved with the eclipse. So again, the eclipses mark endings, lunar eclipses, and there is some sort of a culmination of a theme and revelation of something going on. And I think it'll be very interesting. I want to see, you know, make comments on the video if you see anything that comes up about twins, about DNA, about, forensics, solving crimes, family lineage, just genetic genealogy. Now, there is also an interesting way that I'm thinking that the way that this could play out is that the eclipse flips a switch in people's DNA. Now, on a metaphysical level, we do understand that DNA can change. It can switch on, it can switch off. We know on a physical level, certain things can affect our DNA, right? Our consciousness can affect our DNA. We can heal ourselves on a cellular level. I do believe that. And so, wouldn't it be interesting if we have, because we're talking about Didymus, and because that is a very sort of, you know, in the sense of twins and existing in two states, we could have a choice of, you know, being in one state of consciousness that is healing our DNA, or being in another state of consciousness that is degrading our DNA. And there's a dividing there, like splitting off of, you know, people and their consciousness levels and having very different experiences in that respect. So it's interesting to think about all the ways that could play out. I mean, we could also be really, I mean, we have talked about it. It's out there, but I think it will be more widespread and understood and clearly seen that there's two levels of justice, right? Um, and DNA, how would that play into it, right? Are we talking about bloodlines? Are we talking about certain lineage? Because we are talking about Capricorn, we're talking about Libra, Libra being, you know, sign that deals with fairness, justice, balance, and looking at these things in terms of how they're playing out archetypally before us in government, in law, in legal cases, and sort of amplifying that there are two states. But now here's another thing. So just looking at the eclipse, the lunar eclipse in Libra, and squaring Didymus in Capricorn and looking at government, are we looking at two forms of government operating side by side? Are we looking at the sort of splitting? I mean, you know, the infighting has been ridiculous, but does it get worse? Are there, more lawsuits filed? You know, are leaders fighting one another in court? More, I just there's going to be so much legal crap. It's not even funny. Um, so it could be a very interesting concept to think that our government is existing in two states simultaneously. And states, I mean by states of being, not states, but maybe. I mean, maybe. But in terms of what we see on the surface versus how things are really running behind the scenes, and that can go many layers deep. It's interesting, and I think we should watch because of all the chatter that's going on, and I won't get into it, but the solar eclipse in Aries, Aries is war, military, National Guard stuff. And what if we are going from one expression of governance to another? And what if we've always kind of been under, let's say, a martial style of governance, but on the surface, it looks like one thing, but it's really something else, and it's been something else for a while. Anyway, if you know, you know. But maybe it becomes obvious, but we're moving towards that. Don't forget, eclipses last 6 months to a year. They say that depending on the duration of the eclipse, but I look at it as for this next 6 months, these eclipses, we're closing out the last 6 months with the lunar eclipse and beginning a new 6 month cycle with the solar eclipse. And that's our story for this season. Just make it simple. So Anyway, I'll wrap up with the asteroids. The solar eclipse is going to square asteroid Child and radio communicata. Uh, did you see Quiet on the Set about Nickelodeon and Drake Bell? That was heart-wrenching. So I look at Child, radio communicata can be an interview, some kind of radio transmission. Um, it can be, it's internet now, it's podcasts, right? So, uh, ooh, maybe there will be more. Maybe there will be something from, I mean, he was a child star. This was about child actors, but they are adults now, right? Capricorn, adult children. So something possibly regarding children and interviews. I'm wondering if a child of a public figure may do an interview, may come out, may tell the truth. Let's hope. One more thing I wanted to kind of look at in Libra. Not a whole lot going on. Urania at 22 will oppose the solar eclipse. Urania is the muse of astrology. Zeus, 24 Libra. And again, Eclipse. It's like a third time's the charm. 3 passes, 3 strikes, you're out. Eclipse also has to do with like investigations where you are, or research where you're piecing together parts of the past. Like you have discovery, but then you have recovery, which is sort of going back. It's not discovering something in the present, it's discovering something from the past, which will be very interesting because the solar eclipse does square that 20 degrees. Aries squares 20 degrees Cancer, and it is retrograde. So it is going back to the recent past, but even way, way back in a family line. Cancer, the mother. Um, what else do we have in terms of asteroids? Mars has been hanging out with Pythia, the pythons, um, the Oracle of Delphi were the Pythia. So you can relate it to oracles and Delphi, Indiana. Mars and Pythia. That is making a trine to Asclepius, our whistleblower. I wonder if there's anything going on with that. Just curious. Bernie, Crantor in Pisces, Circe, Aphrodite, House, Venus and House, and then Saturn, and then Apophis, the destroyer. That's our Egyptian Satan. And Venus, let's see, Apophis is moving pretty fast. So Apophis will probably catch up to Orpheus when Venus catches up to Saturn. Orpheus is the dream state, and in Pisces, there's a lot of necromancy, calling up the dead and dreaming about them. Nessus and Dejanira are together, and that's the abuser and the abused, and the toxic dynamic here. Ooh, Requiem, that's a funeral mass. Yikes. We'll see. Icarus flies too close to the sun. Hygeia is health and healing. Neptune is helping with Hygeia, but this is also, when we think about Pisces and Virgo, that's the immune system. So there can be something of a challenge here with health, with the immune system, with Neptunian themes of lack of boundaries, and Borasisi, the lies we like to tell ourselves. Whew. So you see why it's been difficult every time Mercury had to go through Neptune and Borasisi, it had to expose the lies. And the sun going through there, I'm sure there's stuff coming up about health, whether it's, lies telling lies about the state of someone's health or lying to ourselves about our health, maybe. Um, so that's all very interesting. Eh, okay, well, I think that about covers it for today. So with that, I'll close it out here. That was my pop-up. Happy spring, happy equinox, happy eclipse season. It's a good time to lay low. If you don't feel a lot of energy, don't push yourself. I think we all need a little bit of rest. I feel like we're kind of getting battered on the astral plane. And yeah, do things to strengthen your health, strengthen your aura, keep yourself protected. Don't hang out with weirdos. Avoid the crazies. Avoid the energy vampires. Take care of yourself first. Don't overextend. And um yeah, just self-care. Always around this time. There's always a drop in energy, but I would think that it's going to be more profound right now, especially if you have planets that are aspecting Saturn and Venus and maybe Mars going into Pisces. I mean, that just feels super draggy. The sun, since it's entered Aries, is better, but we still have that sort of squishy, nebulous, Pisces, floaty, wanting to escape, needing some downtime, recuperation. So, you know, people who have serious health issues, um, and all kinds of situations that are hanging on by a thread tend to be pushed to the limit during eclipse times. So keep that in mind. People are going through shit. If you seem okay, then, be there for other people. Just be patient with them and, you know, hang around to hand somebody a tissue or, you know, maybe a drink if it's appropriate, or pass the joint or whatever. Do a little microdosing. I would say don't push anything too far. Overuse of any kind of substances. Listen, I mean, if you know people who are on medication and you understand when they're out of it, especially if anybody is taking sleeping pills with other types of pills, beware the ambient haze. I mean, this feels like a weird overdosey kind of, I took too much of my meds sort of energy. So be aware of that. Um, with the people that you're close to, if you know anybody who, um, may be at risk for that. So, not deliberate suicide, but accidental. Like I was saying on my last podcast, with Mars going into Pisces, what pop it just popped into my mind before you slip into unconsciousness. Sad. Ugh. Yeah, I don't like to think about that. I know somebody who's that happened to their sister, and it can happen so easily. And people are going through so much. And, I'm not going to judge or knock anybody who needs a little bit of help. If you need medication, you take it. But be a spotter for people if you know anybody like that in your life. Just concerns me here with the eclipses. All right, and all this Pisces energy. Okay, okay. I said my piece. I'm off my soapbox, and I'm ready to end this transmission. I might pop in again towards the end of the week, maybe on the eclipse. We'll see. Might pop in to see how everyone's doing. But with that said, think I'm done here. All right, everybody, you know where to find me. This is going up on YouTube. I'm probably going to I'm going to try to stream it to Twitter after the fact. So if you're listening then, um, that's where it'll be. YouTube, probably Twitter, and that's where, you can find me. Absolutely. Astro Lunatic, Instagram, Facebook, God, I can't think. Go if you're on the YouTube video, go in the description box. You'll find all of my links there. The Gilded Chat is there. I think my Substack newsletter, you could sign up for it. If not, go on Substack and look for it. You can buy me a coffee if you want to buy a MIDI reading, or if you just want to support my astrology habit, you can donate there. I do accept donos. But really, book a reading. And you can do that by either emailing me at astrolunachick@gmail.com, or you can reach me on the Astro Lunatic hotline at 914-222-1231. Leave a message or text me. Let me know what you're looking for. We'll work something out. I take all forms of payment, including crypto. I am a crypto bitch, so I plan on being crypto rich. So you can pay me in coin. I do accept it. Right now, probably just Bitcoin, but I don't know. Let me know what you got. Let me see what you got. I'll let you know. If it's not some meme shitcoin or, I have a few on my list that I'm eyeing. I'll be making some purchases around the eclipse when the market bottoms out, because it will. It'll do that probably. That's my guess. Before the halving, we're going to see some sort of dump. It's going to take a dump. And that's when smart bitches like me are going to swoop in and clean house. So yeah, I take all kinds of payments. Like I said, I got Venmo, I got Cash App, I got PayPal, I got crypto. So, alrighty, guys. With that, enjoy your eclipses, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now.